Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down how a nation is teetering on the edge of chaos, and how a peace deal signed thousands of miles away might have been the spark that lit the whole thing on fire. So, why is Pakistan, a country with over 240 million people staring down the barrel of a potential civil war? The answer is, well, it's a wild story, and it starts at a place you would probably never expect.
All right, so to really get a handle on this, let's first just take a look at what's actually happening on the ground in Pakistan right now. Okay, so you've got these massive, violent protests just exploding in major cities. We're talking Lahore, Islamabad, and Rawalpindi. Things have gotten so intense that the government has sent in the Rangers, which is a really powerful paramilitary force. And that's led to deadly clashes. We're seeing reports from international media saying at least 15 civilians have been killed. And all this chaos is really concentrated in the key province of Punjab. But here's the crazy part. The spark for all this fire, it wasn't even lit in Pakistan. Nope, it was lit thousands of miles away. And it all goes back to a peace deal that, on the surface, you'd think has absolutely nothing to do with any of this.
So let's rewind a bit. You'll remember the October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel. Well, fast forward to mid-2025, and the U.S. has managed to broker a major peace treaty between Israel and Gaza. It was a huge deal. By October of that year, you had world leaders gathering in Egypt, celebrating what everyone was calling a landmark achievement. But that's the thing about geopolitics. This deal, which was all about bringing stability to one region, ended up igniting an absolute firestorm in South Asia. It triggered a totally unforeseen and violent backlash inside Pakistan. Okay, so how on earth does a peace agreement translate into street violence? Well, to understand that, you have to know about one very specific group.
That group is the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, or TLP for short. Now, these guys are a far-right pro-Islam group, and from their perspective, this U.S. brokered deal was a total betrayal of the Palestinian people. They felt it was completely one-sided, unfairly favoring Israel.
So this anger didn't just stay as talk. It turned into action. First, the TLP tried to do things by the book. They asked for a permit to protest at the U.S. Embassy. But the Pakistani government, likely afraid of backlash from the U.S., said no. And that denial, that was the trigger. The TLP took to the streets anyway, and that's what exploded into the riots we're seeing today. And just to make a chaotic situation even crazier, right in the middle of all this, a really key figure has just vanished, and that has poured a whole lot more gasoline on this fire. We're talking about Saad Rizvi. He's the leader of the TLP, this powerful and mobilized movement, and he's just gone. Nobody seems to know where he is. Has he been arrested? Is he in hiding? Or has something much worse happened? No one's saying a thing. And you really can't overstate how serious this is. Analysts cited in our source material put it in absolutely chilling terms. One of them literally said that if it turns out Rizvi is dead, Pakistan will not exist. Just think about that. The stability of the entire nation could very well hinge on the fate of this one man. Now, this massive internal crisis isn't happening in a bubble. It's more like Pakistan is trying to juggle with fire. They're facing huge pressure from pretty much every direction, and it's stretching their government and security forces right to the breaking point. And you've got to understand this context. It's not just the protests. They are literally fighting fires on every single front. To the west, you've got active, deadly clashes on the border with Afghanistan. Internally, there are these long-running separatist insurgencies in places like Balochistan and Sindh that are just constantly draining resources. And then, of course, to the east, you have the historic, always volatile tension with India. So when your forces are stretched that thin, a major crisis at home is the absolute last thing you need. And that conflict on the Afghan border, it's not just being fought with bullets. It's an information war, too. You have Afghanistan claiming they've killed 58 Pakistani soldiers, and they've released photos and videos as proof. In response, Pakistan claims they've killed 200 Afghan soldiers, but so far they haven't provided any evidence to back that up. So, with the country in turmoil internally and under pressure externally, how is Pakistan's leadership going to explain this chain of events to its people and to the world? Well, according to the source material we're looking at, the prediction is that they'll fall back on a very familiar playbook. They're expected to deflect all responsibility and publicly blame their regional rival, India, for causing all the instability. But that narrative would just conveniently ignore the real domino effect that we've just walked through. It started with a U.S. brokered deal angering a Pakistani faction. Then, the Pakistani government's own response escalated everything. That led to violent clashes between their own citizens and security forces. And now the whole thing is spiraling, fueled by the mystery of a missing leader. And really, the key takeaway here is just how interconnected our world is. I mean, think about it. A single foreign policy decision made with the Middle East in mind can have absolutely devastating and totally unintended consequences for a country hundreds of miles away in South Asia. And this leaves us with a final and pretty crucial question about Pakistan's future. With domestic unrest, a missing leader, and conflicts simmering on multiple borders, which one of these fires will be the one that consumes the state? Thanks for joining this edition of The Explainer.